Hello, my name is Wolfram Reuter. I am the great-grandson of Josef Reuter and Margarete Reuter, geborene Albrecht. Those people who lived in this house here, you see this? And these were the parents from my grandfather Andreas Reuter and of Scott Palmer's grandfather Theodor Reuter. And they were both born in this house. My grandfather was born there in 19 and Scott's grandfather was born in 1907 in this house. Where our grandfathers were born, and here you see typical scenes from old villages where the house stood beneath together. And this, the first part, is the part of the house of our grandparents. Now we are going to another property nearby the house of our great-grandparents. And our great-grandfather bought this property here till the end to the street and got the permission to build a new house and a new stable for him and his wife. Okay, now follow me and I show you where the property is and how huge this property is. It starts from here to the end of the street. Okay, this is my home, and this whole place was Alois, who died 2 years ago. He was also his mother was a daughter from our great-grandparents, and my great-grandfather built the right part of the house in 1923. He got the permission to build a new house and he did this, and you see this on the right. On the left part was a stable, and my parents tore this stable down and built a new house in 1961, which was a shop on the floor there, on the first floor. Now I'll show you an old place of Massenbachhausen. You see this old building there, and I will tell a small story about it. Let's walk there. You know something about Brother Firminus. He was born in this house in the 19th century, and he was, we call it in German, ein Steinmetz, a person who is doing gravestones and stones, and he worked at the big cathedral in Cologne. And he did, some people say he did this head, we showed you before, and he was born in this house, I think in 1879. And this was in the past a synagogue, and then his parents bought this house and he was born in this house. And now there will, our government, not government, of the village will do a museum of this house where the people are coming together and they are doing some rooms there upside where you can stay a night or two when you are here in our. There is something special about that you see that this was in the past a synagogue, but I think there were some windows also, but I can't explain it. I don't know it. Interesting. Now we are going through a walk to our city, our small city, but the city is nowadays totally different than as it was in the past. Now we are going to the church and the schoolhouse and then back to my house. Huh? What? This is the town bakery. They did the shop new maybe 3 months ago, and before the owners run the shop, but they retired now and they want to give the shop up. And the father of the owner came in the 20s of the last century from Bad Wimpfen to Massenbachhausen and bought the bakery and ran the shop. And now the owners gave it permission to another person to run the shop. And to this side you see the Adler. In this house lived in the 70s a woman who was a tailor, and my mother went sometimes to her to take the clothes in another way, you know. This is the Good Shepherd. I don't know if this is the real world, but I mean, this is a person. He's blessing us. You see this? And he has a sheep on his arms. And 2 years ago, some youth did jokes and destroyed this nice figure. They put up the hand and the thing he holds in his hand and threw it away, and they had to do it new. So, behind me you can see our Katholische Kirche St. Kilian. It's the Catholic Church, you say it in English, and she got last year 100 years of her building. And in the past, before the new church was built, there was standing the old church at the end of this property, and before the church was the cemetery. And then they tore the old church down and built a new in 1906. Just come inside. We're taking a look inside in our church, and I'll show you some things. This is the entrance on the back side. When Sundays is Mass, the priest on a celebration is coming in from the back side. And this is a nice statue of Jesus, and this to show the icon from the... There are a few women who are decorating the church every week, and they put something from their garden, and they do it for free. When you go inside the church as a Catholic, you have to do this thing, a crest. And you know the Eastern Europe people, they make this way to this part, and the Catholic to the heart. And now we go up to the place where you can see Brother Firminus. This is Brother Firminus, a corner to honor him, and a picture of him and his crest. When he died, he was buried in Düsseldorf on a cemetery, and then they took out his body and put it into a church, into a monastery downstairs in Düsseldorf, and there you can watch his grave. There are all statues, and this statue is the one who gave the church the name. It's St. Kilian. Now, Uncle Teddy, this might be very interesting for you. I will say you that this figure upside is Saint Gabriel, where he's killing the devil. This is also interesting here. When you are a child and becoming your faith, there is some holy water, and then your parents or they're holding you there, and the priest is putting the water on your head, and then you are a Catholic person. Skadi said this is where you're gonna baptize. In German it's Taufe. The main word is Taufe, and when you say du wirst getauft hier. Baptized. Right? This is the Marienaltar. So here you can see, I don't know the name in English, but in German it's Altar, and it's made of sandstone, and this is the only piece from the old church who was standing there upside, and when they tore it down, they did it out and put it here in the new. And our village belonged to the kings of Nijperk, and in the middle you can see Maria Theresia von Nijperk. She gave the money that they can build this thing in the past. And there are a lot of holy people around there, St. Margareta or Barbara Blasius, all helpers, holy helpers for illnesses or for the people's. And this part, on every mass, the priest walks up and reads his thing during the mass. When the prayers are over, then he went upstairs, and in the past there was a very strength priest, and he cheated with the people, and he said, you did this, and showed with his finger on them. In the past the priest had a strength, and the people were looking upside to him. Now we are back at the entrance on the back side of the church, in front of the statue from Jesus. And this thing, there is the holy water in, and rosaries put in. You can put this in a small bottle, bring it at your home, and we did this here in our town to sprinkle some water on the graves of our relatives, from our parents, from my parents or my great parents, when we are celebrating. And we go to the cemetery, maybe on Christmas, we're putting some water on the graves. Now we are nearly at home, and this is the entrance of the cemetery, not far away from my home, from my house. And now we are going to show you some graves of our relatives, or maybe of my parents, and to find a place where it's quiet. Very quiet, and when you are looking for someone you can talk to, you have in Massenbachhausen only go to the cemetery, because you meet every time persons you can talk to. Here is a grave from a relative from us. It was the youngest child from Josef and Margarete Reuter. You can read his name, Alfred Reuter. He was born in 1930, and he sold coal and oil later oil, but most coal, and the people here in Massenbachhausen, they called him the coal Reuter. I told you before that our village belonged to the kings of Nijperk. It's a small town in our area, and they're all buried here, maybe till the 60s. And these are graves on the on this side, and on the back side there is a mausoleum where they are buried in, and but now they are not buried anymore here. They are buried in Schweigen, where they are living in the castle in Schweigen. This is the grave of my parents. As you can see, my mother died first when she was 38 years old, and this was nearly 30 years ago. And my father died in December. It will be 10 years, and they are both buried here. And this was in the past the grave of my mother's great parents from her father's side. I told you that when you wanted to talk to somebody, you have to go to the cemetery. You meet every time people you can talk to.
Aber jetzt hat er nicht vielleicht, aber das ist normale am 6
6 oder so kommen wir mehr. Wir waren gerade im Garten, weißt du, und wären wir draußen im Garten hinterm Haus, weißt du?
Ja.
Haben wir da einen Garten.
Aha.
Und kommen wir gerade her, sonst wären wir jetzt auch noch nicht da, weißt du?
Ah, ja,
und das heißt jetzt halt heute Nacht kriegen.
Brauchst du nicht mehr Leber, das auf
Ja, ja,
das ist
ja.
so.
Ja, aha.
Und dann war halt der Kunde zum Willi. Du hast ja gleich noch, weißt du?
Ja, ja, das haben wir daheim gemacht. Ich habe gewusst, dass die Baumgärtner heißen.
Im Morgen war in Berlin, im Hotel, wo wir waren.
Ja?
Im Holiday Inn da im Siemensstadt.
Ja, aha. Aha.
Das ist im letzten Mal, wo wir da waren mit der Feuerwehr, war noch der Theo dabei.
War vor 10 Jahren jetzt im Oktober, ja.
Ja, gell?
10 Jahre, aha.
Das war gut mit dem Willer, war schon ausgeschrieben, Fahrt immer mitmachen.
Mhm, ja.
Ich habe gesehen, wieder mal das neue Ding da sehen, da.
Ja.
Das Jute-Denkmal.
Ja.
Oh, ja.
Das habe ich noch nicht angeguckt.
Kerle.
Das habe ich noch nicht angeguckt.
Sowas
Ja.
verschandelt.
Ah ja, du bist Platz. Now I'm talking a little bit about the family. A few things maybe, because around me, around my bank here, you see a lot of graves where maybe a lot of relatives were buried and lived here in this town. And I think our great grandparents were also buried here in this cemetery, but I don't know the place where this was, where they're buried. And we showed you the grave of Alfred Reuter, and nearby was my grandfather's grave and his two wives, because he had two wives. The first wife died when my father was 9 months old, and then my grandfather married Thea Reuter 2 years later and got a child more, and he had 3 sons. And my grandfather had a wish, he wants a daughter. And then when the third child is going to be born, and he was born, and he said, once more a son. And also Rita is buried here on this cemetery. She was a daughter from Josef Reuter and Margarete Reuter, and the other persons went outside our village, maybe Theodor Reuter, who went to America, or Elise Reuter, who lived in Mannheim. Or here is also buried the oldest child from Josef and Margarete. His name was, like his father's name, Josef. And his wife, it was upside there, but it did not exist now. There is a sad story of Josef Reuter. He lost an arm at the First World War, and in the Second World War he had to go to as a soldier because he could not shoot with only one arm. And he and his wife had a shop in Heilbronn, and once in Heilbronn fell some bombs on, and the children were scared and they don't want to stay no longer in Heilbronn, and so they went to the hometown of the parents here in Massenbachhausen. And the parents changed it one night, changed the situation one night. The mother was in Heilbronn and one night the father. And Heilbronn was bombed at the 4th December 1944, and the mother died in the basement of the house, and they took her at night and buried her here in Massenbachhausen, and Josef Reuter died a year later and was also buried here. Now I can tell you a little things about a child from Josef and Margarete Reuter, of Theodor Reuter. I say it in German. He left his hometown maybe in the 20s and went to America, and he's the father from Ted, called Ted. His name is also Theodor, like his father's name, and Joanne and Thomas Reuter, who are living all in America. And maybe a funny story about my grandfather and his older brother. They sometimes went to the pub and to want to drink a lot and they don't thought about going home, and they maybe went home at 4 in the morning, and his father woke them up at 6 in the morning and said to them, if you can drink the whole night, you can stand up early in the morning and go to the work and work on the fields. Now I'm telling the names of the children. I hope I will forget no one. But the oldest son was Josef Reuter. He was born in 1899, in the 19th century. Then my grandfather was born, Andreas Reuter. He was born in 19. And then Alois Reuter was born. I think his name was Alois, the one who got priest, and he switched his name to Alepius Reuter. He was born in 1901. And then a daughter was born. I think her name was Anna. She died maybe a day later, and I think then Rita was born in 1904. And Theodor Reuter was born in 1907, and Elisabeth Reuter, I don't know when she was born. And then was Alfons Reuter, another son, and the youngest child, we saw his grave before, his name was Alfred Reuter. And then I think she gave birth to another daughter or a son who died then after it was born. But the Reuters are not getting very old. The oldest, the only person who got a good age was Rita. I think she died when she was 82 or around, but all the Reuters died young. They are not supposed to live long on earth. And today is a special day, because today is the birthday of Theodor Reuter. He was born 100 years before here in 1907 in Massenbachhausen, and it is a great thing for his grandson Scott Palmer, who is now filming me, and maybe for his mother Joanne Palmer, and for the other Reuter relatives in America. And later Scott Palmer, the grandson of Theodor Reuter, and we will do a little celebration to the 100th birthday of Theodor Reuter, and to show it to his children, to Joanne Palmer, to Theodor Reuter, and to Thomas Reuter. And they all can celebrate the 100th birthday of their father, who was born 100 years ago here in our village. Now we are only a few steps away from a celebration. Scott Palmer and we will do a small celebration for the 100th birthday of his grandfather, and to show this to his children, to Joanne Reuter, to Thomas Reuter, and to Ted Reuter. His name is Theodor Reuter in America. Vielen Dank für die Klärung am Donnerstag. Heute Morgen
Ja, dann stiegen wir aus und es war ein Wind. Ich hatte ja aber meine ganze Jacke mit und haben die Kapuze aufgemacht. Auf der Brücke ist so ein langer Steg, weißt du. Da habe ich gesagt, nehmt euch ein Kopftuch mit. Auf der Brücke zieht es wie Echtsuppe. Es hat gebebt.
Super. Guck, ich habe die Farben, dachte ich, das muss passen.
Du? Super.
Ja, ich.
Da mache ich mal im
Hast jetzt mal in der Hand.
And it matches your
Für Tulpen.
your decor.
Aha.
Nice.
Ist das aus dem Laden, was ich dir gesagt habe? Was?
Na, da hatten sie nichts.
Von Montana.
Genau, das sind doch so diese typischen Schalen. Gefällt dir?
Da mache ich mal, aber jetzt sind sie die Ernte schon rum. Vielleicht hin sie noch bis so ein Getreidestrauß oder sowas.
Ja, sowas.
Aber keinen langen, ne?
Nee, so
rundgebunden.
Schön, danke.
Bitte, gerne.
Orange und Rot.
Ja.
Well, these are my favorite colors.
Yes. His coloring book.
Was du an
Ja, guck doch mal.
Well, you see Scotty here making the fire for the barbecue. We are celebrating today with a few friends of mine, and my sister and family is also coming.
It's going. Ready to go? Is it working?
Ich glaube, es kann ein bisschen an der deutschen.
Here we are in Massenbachhausen, barbecuing with Wolfram and his friends, and everything looks pretty good. Steaks and Wurst and
He did a very good fire.
all flesh.
Good stuff. Probier's. 2 oder 3 Jahren haben die dort so einen Sandkasten gehabt. Und
Okay, we have a little barbecue here I want to show you. And we are doing quite a nice job. We've got different kinds of Wurst and some steak. And how do you say steak in German?
also steak.
Okay. And so everything's looking good. Here's the fire. It's nice and hot. Coals are white. Having a great time here. As you can see, we are out kind of in the country. We're maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilometers from Massenbachhausen. This is all private property here. This is another family that has a house here. They're doing a little construction on their summer home. We've had dinner there a few times this summer. It's a real nice family. And so here we are again. Here's the summer home, owned by Wolfram Reuter. A real nice place. And over there, you can see some foothills. And the city of Massenbachhausen in the distance.
Oder in Französisch, Wahlwölfe.
Nein, das kann sie noch nicht sagen. Deinen Namen sagen. Hallo, ich bin.
Wie heißen Sie?
Anke,
Und wer kommst du, Anka?
Wie heißt du?
Deutschland,
Und wo in Deutschland? Massenbachhausen?
Massenbachhausen.
Okay. Und
Wo wohnst du und welche Straße?
was magst du? Was magst du jetzt?
Essen.
Essen?
Hallo, ich bin Anke und das ist meine Familie.
Und ich bin hier. Und was magst du mit mir?
Ich bin hier und wir spielen Baseball mit
Ja,
Äpfel
ja. Und essen mit
und,
dein Onkel und
und essen mit meinem Onkel und
Schwester, Mutter, Bruder.
meiner Schwester, meine Mutter, mein Vater und Scott und
Ja. Und
anderen Freunden.
sagt Hallo für deine Familien in the USA. Und deine Cousine und Cousin.
Hallo Cousinen und Cousins in Amerika.
Good. Okay, this is our cousin, Anka Birkenstock. Her mother is Petra Reuter, and This is her father and brother and mother. And we're here with friends as Wolfram. Hello! And wir hier zusammen a little party. Okay.
Und das ist mein Zuhause.
Okay. Und wie alt bist du, Anke?
Ich bin 10 Jahre alt.
10 years old. Okay. And your mother, she is Petra Reuter.
Yeah.
And the brother of Wolfram. Wolfram, the brother ist Wolfram. Genau?
Ja.
Und was ist, wo ist deine Schule?
Meine Schule ist in Schweigern.
Ja, und was machst du in der Schule?
Ich lerne Mathe oder auch Englisch.
Aha, gut, gut. Und dein Englisch ist gut? Ja? Und was machst du hier in Massenbachhausen? Spiel mit deinen Freunden und was machst du?
Ich spiele
Hello,
Tennis.
I'm Tobias. I'm the brother of Anke. My last name is Birkenstock, and my mother is Petra. She isn't here now, and I want just hello to say hello to my cousins in America.
There's a little bit newer part of Massenbachhausen. This is the home here.
The windows just face the backyard. It's the castle in Schweigern on the right side.
Oh.
Så gennem så må man
Så når man nu har große Lämmer, dann wollen wir noch Oder ist Ihnen...
Die Wille verschenken, ich weiß halt nicht wie viel.
Ganz schöne Oberjünste.
Dankeschön, gleichfalls.
Danke.
Schöner Feierabend.
Ja.
Echt schön, ich auch.
In Holland dann wahrscheinlich.
No.
Okay, now we're leaving. We're going over here to catch the train.
Das PKW auf Rotterdam Juli, aber da habe ich auch noch eine Woche frei gehabt, aber jetzt habe ich dafür brauche ich im Sinne.
Ja, wir genießen.
Okay.
Now we bought some good beef.
What did we do?
Tomorrow evening,
Yes?
I'm going to do a Rostbraten.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it will be fine. My grandmother owns not a restaurant, you know,
Yes.
and she did the best one in whole Massenbachhausen. And we had in the past 5 small restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
but my grandmother did the Rostbraten best. And once what's called a Bürgermeister,
Bürgermeister.
our last Bürgermeister once said to my father, I wanted one time eat such a good rostbraten, which her mother-in-law did.
Nice. And what was your grandmother's name?
Helene Baumann.
Helene Baumann.
Baumann, yeah.
Oh. And she was married to
Arthur Baumann.
Oh. On your mother's
My mother's
side.
parents.
Mhm. Very nice. All right. All right, we're getting ready to catch our train here.
My train uncertain left the station.
All aboard. Wolfram and I we just left Stuttgart heading to Munich, and we're gonna take a look at the map when the lights come back on. we're in a tunnel right now, so we have to wait a minute.
Now we are going to Ulm, and it's the border between Baden-Württemberg and Bayern, between the two countries. Then Günzburg, Augsburg, and then Munich.
Ah, cool. So much Schnäppchen, gone in bed.
It means a cheap trip with the railway, and you can buy a bed too, or you have a bed. You have to buy a cheap price and you can drive and sleep in a hotel.
Oh, that's nice.
Or in the train. I have to read it. The Reuter family.
Say that again.
As you can see, Theodore is a very popular name in the Reuter family.
I wonder why that is.
But my father's really name will be, would be Rudolf.
Oh, Rudolf.
Rudolf, yes. His father named him Rudolf, and he went to the main town when he was born, and told the Bürgermeister that he's born, and to get the how do you call in English the paper when you are born?
Your birth certificate.
Yes. And then he went on his way, and that's, I don't know, maybe my grandfather doesn't like this person, and he said something to him, and he got angry or upset, and turned the way back to the main hall and said Theodore before it. So my father's name was Theodore.
Nice.
But no one called him Theodore. He's in these days well known as Theo.
Theo. That's nice. So, just to kind of back up a little bit.
Yes,
your grandfather's name was
Andreas Reuter.
Andreas Reuter, the brother of my grandfather.
A smaller name. My grandfather was the second child from. He joked about the name of my grandfather getting
Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. He didn't like that because it was associated with
name was He called him not Rudolph. That meant the second. My grandfather Andreas Reuter.
Lovely.
And I don't know it in all the persons, but I think then Rita was born, and then Theodore Reuter.
And then
a girl, Anna Reuter, but she died at the same day when she was born. I think at the same day or
I heard about
3 months later.
Okay. And
no, I forgot.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question about.
After my grandfather was born, Alibius Reuter, Alfons Reuter, which got priest, which was
he drowned.
Yes.
He drowned in the States. And what about the Cole Reuter?
It was the youngest from the Reuter family. He was born in 1913, and my grandfather died in the Second World War. He was shot down by a soldier maybe 150 kilometers away from our hometown Massenbachhausen in the area called Pfalz.
And he was
then 45 years old.
What was his job in the German military?
He was a normal soldier. My father said when the Second World War started at the 1st September of 1939, they laid down to sleep, and someone knocked on the window and said, Andreas, tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock at the Bachhausplatz you have to go to the military. And he was also a soldier in the First World War when he was 18 years old in 1918. He was born in 19. And his older brother Josef Reuter lost an arm in the First World War. He was also in the First World War.
Was any of our family Hitler Youth?
No. Our great-grandfather was, my father said he was a big Nazi. And my father, when he was a child, he had to go to the neighborhood, and there meet a lot of men from the neighborhood, and they listened every Sunday at 1 o'clock. Adolf Hitler speaks over the radio. And my father said, and we had to sit down and listen to these stupid things he's telling the men. And the men are sitting and saying, oh, our leader.
And say it in German, what he said when he sat down and spoke about this.
What should I have to say?
Talk about what he would say, and say it in German when he would sit down and talk about what he had to say about listening to, when he had to sit down and listen to the radio.
Say it in German.
Yeah, say it in German so we have a little authenticity.
My father said, I speak dialect. My father said, und wir haben dort noch sitzen gemisst und den Scheißdreck anhören, was der schwätzt, und uns hat es nicht interessiert.
That was just
But you know, my father was too young to go to the Hitlerjugend, and his brother was also too young. They were nearly at the age when the war was over.
I see.
To go into the Hitlerjugend.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What do we have here?
Good morning, you two. Can you read this?
Good morning, you two. I wish you a wonderful day with no rain. See you tonight, Charlotte.
What's that jumping?
Oh yeah. Okay, let me see if I can.
Wir bitten Sie dort alle auszusteigen. Das Abendstil bedankt sich recht herzlich bei Ihnen, dass Sie für Ihre Reise den Allgäu-Express genügend begrüßen und betreuen zu dürfen. Wir wünschen Ihnen nun einen schönen Aufenthalt in Oberstdorf. Auf Wiedersehen. Der Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Gerne mal raus, dann machen wir noch Gruppe.
Festers.
Festers.
Müssen wir aber schauen, dass wir gleich, oder? Der Fahrer, der mit dem Alex und der steht da. Ja?
Entschuldigung.
Doch ein bisschen irgendwie mussten wir mal mitschalten.
Ja.
Eine Frage oder ja.
Genau. Und dann kann man
Ich mache die Backstuhl.
an welchen Tagen?
Leider nein. Dann müssten Sie vielleicht die Frage vielleicht ganz wirklich. Ja, genau. Schönen Abend.
Genau, dann kann man Sie, also auf jeden Fall die Begleitperson mit, wenn Sie eigentlich
Find anything. Look at Scott. We are here now in Oberstdorf, in a very popular village at the border from Germany to Austria, and there is Oberstdorf is known in the whole Germany and in Austria and maybe in the world because there is a Sprungschanze called in German when you look at that on the back in the backside. Just show me a face that the people are seeing that this is yours here in Germany.
Here I am with my cousin. Quite
And
nice.
can you show me how I can zoom a little bit?
Yeah,
because
just,
right here, this button here. Here is Scott. He's visiting something, a car he loves to visit. No, not a car, a tree.
Bin ja doch nicht mehr, sonst wollte ich eigentlich ins Büro laufen.
Alright, here we are. Another voyage. Wolfram and I are heading out this morning to Strasbourg.
Managed to get up early.
Yeah, we got up. It's a little after 8 in the a.m. on, what is it? It's August 17th, 2007. And it's about a 2-hour trip to France from here, which is really nice. Okay, we're 28 kilometers from Strasbourg. I think a little closer to the French border, but Strasbourg is the first main large city in France from southwestern Germany.
Now we are back in my house, in my flat. In the house where our great-grandfather Josef Reuter built in the 20s from the last century. And this is a picture of the family Reuter, which shows the mother and the father Josef Reuter. And these are the children from the Reuter family who lived in the 20s.
Margarete gave birth to a daughter who died maybe 3 months after she gave birth to her. This is Josef Reuter, the oldest from the Reuters. He lost an arm in the First World War. And he married also a woman here from Massenbachhausen, and he had a shop in Heilbronn. And when Heilbronn was bombed, his wife died in the basement of the house and left back 4 children.
and then they moved to Massenbachhausen. They were in Massenbachhausen at the bombment, but the mother was in Heilbronn and died. And they lived upstairs here, not a whole year, from December to October, where Josef died at the age of 46 years. And this is Andreas Reuter, it's my grandfather. He was born in 19, and he got this house from his father. And this is Alibius Reuter, who got priest, and he spoke 7 languages fluently. He moved to America, I think, in 1928 or 29. This is Rita. Rita married Hermann Wittmann and lived in the house where they are all born, in the Rosenbergstraße. This here is Rosenstraße. This is Elise, Elisabeth. She married a man, a butcher from Mannheim, and moved to Mannheim. And this is Theodor Reuter, you all know. He moved to America, I think, at the end of the 20s or at the beginning of the 30s. And it must be at the end of the 20s, because I saw a photo of him where he was at the funeral of his brother. He died in the lake. And this is the youngest, Alfred Reuter. And Alfred was a well-known person here in Massenbachhausen, because the people called him the coal Reuter. He had also a shop and sold coal and wood. And Alfred was a well-known person, I said it, because we say it in German, he's not thirsty. He drank a lot. He liked wine and beer, like all Reuters do. And he once said, everyone is saying that I'm drinking so much, but no one is talking that I'm thirsty. And our baker said one time to me, he carried always a purse here behind, on his chest, behind his t-shirt or pullover, where there were 5,000 D-marks in, because he said, when I'm going to another place or something else, I had to pay, and I need money all time to carry with me. Elise married a butcher and lived in Mannheim. And my father once said they visited her with his older brother Manfred, maybe after the Second World War. I think it was at the end of the 40s. And my father said his uncle put 6 sausages on a plate, and he said to him, you have to eat it, and you are not allowed to stand up off the table till the plate is empty, and you have to eat all. Yes, some stories about Josef Reuter. I told you that he died in October 45. He also had a shop in Heilbronn. They bought a house in the 20s, his wife and he, and saved the money. And it was bombed in the Second World War. And Gerda, the oldest child of this couple, said they sold it in the 50s because they need the money for learning a job or studying. There were 4 children who were left. Gerda was the oldest with 12 years. She was 12 years when the war was over. And the mother had a lot of brothers and sisters, and each of the brothers and sisters took a child. So they had not to leave the village. They can live in one village, but not in one house. And every time on Christmas, Gerda visited us, and she's a very interesting person and had to tell a lot all of the world. She's a very nice person. From the others, this is Alfon. I forgot him. Alfons Reuter. He died in the 30s, in 1936. And I think this photo was taken when Pater Alibius came to Massenbachhausen in 1926 or 28, when he got priest, and they took him up in Schweigem. I read it in a paper, and they made walked by feet to Massenbachhausen, and it was a big celebration. The faith was a very important thing in the past, and if someone is doing something with the faith, if he's getting priest, or a lady wants to get a nun or so, it was a big celebration, and he celebrated the mass, his first mass here in Massenbachhausen in his birth village. And after this he moved to America, where he died at the age of 30 years. Well, the Reuter, which was the word I said, was the guardian from my father. My father had two brothers. Manfred Reuter is born in 1931. My father was born in 1934, and his mother died when he was 9 months old. And then my grandfather married another woman, Thea Reuter, and they got another child, my uncle Kurt, in 1937. That's right. And my father had also a shop, and he drove by bicycles over the county by bicycle, and he had some merchandise on his bicycle, and then he had a direction every time, the same direction, and the people said, "Andreas, please bring me the next time, well, that underwear or that thing," and he wrote it, and he came back and bought all the things, and then he got on the next trip and brought the people what they want to. And so he learned his wife. He went to sleep in a small restaurant in Reukheim, and there he met my first grandmother. She sat on the piano and played, and they got together and fell in love. But there was one problem: she was a Protestant, and then Alypius talked to her, and she left the Protestantic faith and went to the Catholic. And so she died at the age of 29. She has a problem with the pneumonia. And my grandfather went also further trips over the county, and so he met his second wife in a small village. My grandmother was very poor, because her father died at the First World War, and her house burned down after the First World War, and her mother had a lot of trouble and had to build the house new, and had 4 children to raise up. It was a very hard time for them. Some facts about Massenbachhausen. Massenbachhausen was built from the princes or the kings from Nijperk in the past. Massenbachhausen is now 235 years old. Next year will be 1,235 years old, yes. And Massenbachhausen was built by the kings of Nijperk. And there was a little bit of European history. I think, I don't know it real, but in the 17th century there was a war, a 30 years war we call it. And after this war, Massenbachhausen, all people were died, and only one house was stood. All the other houses were destroyed. And then came people from France who lived in Massenbachhausen, and from other German countries, who built up the whole village new. And they said, we in the Massenbachhauseners name, they are called the Gypsies, and they said, in the west from our village is another village, and in their chronic is written in the west from our village raised after the 13th war a lot of gypsies, and that's because they call us the Gypsies. And they said in Massenbachhausen there are all gypsies, and I used to say the gypsies know how to celebrate. You know, when we have a celebration, we have always good weather, and we are in a good mood when we are celebrating. And I don't know where the Reuters are coming from, but they can't be from the old Massenbachhausen. They must also be maybe from another German county, moved into Massenbachhausen, and now there are 3 Reuter families here, but maybe when we are going back 150 years, we are from one couple coming, I think so. My father used to say, when you are going 100 years back in Massenbachhausen, it's like a spider web. You are related with everyone. But after the Second World War, moved a lot of people from the East Germany to our village. Germans from Hungary and Germans from Czechia, because they have the same faith as we had. They are all Catholics, and it was good for the village because the blood was mixed a little bit. You know, in the past people from Massenbachhausen only married to people from Kirchhausen, from Stockheim and from Schluchtern, because they were Catholic. The villages around our village are all Protestants, and it was not allowed to marry a Protestant in the past, I think till the end of the 60s. But now it's liberal, you can marry Protestant or a person without a faith, doesn't matter. And when I was a child, Massenbachhausen had 2,200 citizens living here, and now we have 3,800 citizens here. Now we are celebrating here in my house, or we give a toast to Mr. Theodor Reuter, who was born 100 years ago. Today here in Massenbachhausen, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, they knew him very, very well because they went together to school. She was also born 100 years ago, but in July. And then we give a toast to him and to all our relatives, and think about them all the time.
That's right.
In a good way.
Here's to them.
Yes.
Right.